Hello and welcome to this afternoon panel discussion where we will talk about D2C strategies and building online communities. Leading the panel is Joel Palix, a seasoned beauty executive with 35 years of experience, both on the brand and retail sides. His roles have included CEO of beauty e-retailer Feel Unique, CEO of Clarins Fragrance Group, and CEO of Thierry Mugler. He now runs his own consultancy, Palix Unlimited. Joel is joined by Riccardo Basile, CEO and co-founder of Agora, a social commerce platform that aims to disrupt the beauty industry. Before Agora, Riccardo co-founded the Lazada Group in Southeast Asia, which was acquired by Alibaba. Also on the panel is Charles Rosier, who is CEO and co-founder of rising skincare brand Augustinus, and Gabriela Salord, who is the CEO and co-founder of clean skincare brand Rowse. Joel, I will leave you to give us your insights on D2C and building communities and to open up the discussion with our panelists.
Thank you, Nag. As you said, in my role as an online beauty retailer for Feel Unique and now a strategic advisor to entrepreneurs and financiers of beauty brands, I've seen more and more indie brands disrupting the market and gaining market share. And this is happening in all beauty and wellness categories. So why is this happening? Well, I think consumers have become somewhat alienated by big luxury brands and a bit bored by many drugstore brands. What we see are millennials, Gen Z, favoring indie boutique brands because such brands offer them greater inclusivity, better personalization, stronger authenticity, and actually an active engagement in the brands they shop. And this is what they're looking for. I've seen many indie brands in my last roles. And if you take a closer look, you find a variety of successful indie models. It's clearly not one model fits all. So I'll review the models which I have identified because I think it's very relevant to the discussion today. The most common model are the brands that start in DTC and then quickly move omnichannel. A good example is Drunk Elephant, a DTC brand when it was born in 2013. But Drunk Elephant really gained mainstream appeal following its launch in Sephora in 2015. And it was the good articulation combination of both models in the US that made it so successful and led to the acquisition by Shiseido Group. Some other brands launch in stores first, but then they use online for international expansion. Filorga was very successful in French pharmacies, but capitalized on its success in France to launch cross-border and then local e-commerce in China. And soon China became its second largest market. Some brands are omnichannel from day one. Verst is a clean beauty brand in which LVMH Luxury Ventures invested last year. They launched online and at Target simultaneously and have been successful from day one, leveraging some media assets related to the group behind the brand. Then you have indie brands that use DTC for subscription. We all know that male grooming was revolutionized by Dollar Shave Club and Harry's. In fact, all categories where routine and personalization matter, such as persona in supplements, function of beauty in hair care, proven in skincare, take great advantage of online because it's the only practical way to do a diagnostic and sell their personalized products. Finally, you have brands starting with content and community and only later moving to DTC. The best example is Emily Weiss with her blog Into the Gloss, which turned into the famous DTC brand Glossier. As we know, Glossier, besides online availability, has also powered growth via experiential brick and mortar in key locations. Goop by Gwyneth Paltrow started as a wellness podcast and is another example of such an approach. In France, Aromazone is a less known but very successful brand which started as a blog in do-it-yourself beauty. All of the brands I mentioned have been very agile in navigating the e-commerce space, embracing beauty tech from AR to AI, and personalizing the shopping experience. In my role as advisor today, I see two major issues for indie brands. One, how to find the right balance between commerce, content, and community. This is particularly important when you want to go international. And the second issue, whether or not and how to transition besides DTC into other channels. So I invited today 3 beauty entrepreneurs to share their story with us and discuss these topics. I'm going to start with the most famous of the 3, Charles. As you mentioned, co-founder and CEO of Augustinus Bader. Charles, from the day you launched Augustinus Bader, you've met with extraordinary success. Obviously, the quality of your product is unanimously recognized, but what did you do to kick off the brand, and how important were influencers in your initial strategy?
Thank you, Joel. Good afternoon, everyone. So for us, when we started, we had, again, a strong research background and scientific background that was based in Germany with Augustinus and his team. But in terms of business execution, we were only 4 people, so a very tiny team. And we were therefore quite pragmatic, because we thought, as again, a small organization, where do influence is global. So if you take away China, the global influencers nowadays are in Hollywood, and therefore we, in a pragmatic way, went to LA. We had some relationship with some A-list actors that became as well early shareholders, and we've managed to seed the product there and to get the product getting a little bit viral. So our first community, in some ways, has been, we were lucky to have some Hollywood endorsement that started this brand awareness and created a curiosity as well from certain journalists. And I guess the second round of influencers were the journalists themselves. So we organized press days, and the story of Augustinus and the credibility of his background in research, again, in stem cell science and wound healing, triggered in the journalist community as well curiosity to try the product. Because obviously journalists, like influencers, one of the issues nowadays is that they receive 200 products to use, and therefore the trick is really to get them to actually try the product and not offer it to a cousin or someone they know in their circle, but actually make the effort to, which we understand. I mean, no one can put 200 products on its own face, but there are so many, as you said, indie brands and new brands launching, that the attention span of the influencers, of, again, the actors, celebrities, social media influencers, and journalists is limited. So for us, we were privileged, I think, to have an attractive enough story and product to get people to actually try the product itself and create sharing their journey with the product. And that was really our first wave of community building. And that community was effectively powerful and very helpful to us.
So today your business is nicely balanced, I believe, between sales on your own site, sales on third-party sites, such as Violet Grey, which supported you very early on, but also sales in department stores and perfumeries. Do you think this is the model to follow, not DTC, but omni-channel for a high-end skincare brand?
I think indie brands, as you said, have the advantage maybe to be more agile, to try to answer, a gap, something that is missing in the market that they can identify. And again, the execution and decision process can be faster than in bigger groups by obvious reasons of faster, smaller team decision chains. But the disadvantage is obviously our marketing dollars and budget is a tiny fraction of what bigger conglomerate can spend to create brand awareness. And therefore, for me, all channel of distributions are also brand awareness vectors. They are tools for us to use to actually get our product known and seen. It's very hard, I think, to ask a consumer. We launched in March 2018, just DTC. And therefore, when we launched in March 2018, just as a DTC brand, our price point was, we had two products, 250 ml moisturizer with two different texture at $265 for one unit. So we were asking basically people to invest into a brand they've never heard the name of. The name was a bit strange, Augustinus Bader, not an easy one to understand. Two different texture, but with no possibility, because we had no samples, so no possibility to try which texture would fit you better. So in some ways, we came very quickly to the conclusion that due to our ambitious growth rate, DTC, again, being a new kid on the block and not having a huge marketing budget, would not get us to the speed of growth we needed. And therefore, we were lucky again because of some of the press buzz we got and influencer buzz, and there was this word of mouth, and our cream was in some ways being shared from people to people that so as you said, Cassandra Gray from Violet Gray, for example, tried the cream and got very enthusiastic and contacted us. So more than the strategy, we were very happy to have this reverse inquiry coming from retailers that put us in a position not of strength, but of kind of equal in the conversation, because that's another issue when you're a new brand, is that, again, due to the number of new brands coming to market, it's not obvious to be interesting to those bigger channels and retailers from day one. But they are very useful, I think, for brand awareness.
As a luxury brand, a lot of your content is top down. Do you see a way to build a community where your consumers would converse between themselves, or it's not top of your agenda?
No, that's a very interesting route, because I think when you request a certain investment, a certain price to consumer, they need to understand the reason why. They need to understand the story behind the brand, behind, again, the justification of our price is the years of research that were given by Augustinus, the disruption, the patents, the efficiency, and that needs explanation. And that explanation is very hard to get through one Instagram post or a celebrity post or a quick endorsement. That's why, again, press and editorial were useful when the press were sharing their own journey and explaining our brand. But we are looking for that opportunity to explain our story. And as you just said, if there are other channels that allow you to have 5 minutes of attention to explain a story, that's very useful. And that doesn't necessarily happen in traditional department stores. So yes, they are, we are very attentive to different options to be able to get our story out there.
Thank you, Charles. I will transition to Riccardo, because actually he might be a way to have a different conversation also on Augustinus Bader. Riccardo, Agora is the name of your company. In Greek, it's a marketplace where people gather, interact, and shop. Can you tell us more about the social commerce platform you are building and where this idea came from?
Sure. Thanks for having me, first of all. So the idea for Agora came from my previous experience in Asia, where both myself and my co-founder Lizzie were co-founder of a business called Lazada, that we ended up, there was a general e-commerce for Southeast Asia that we sold to the Alibaba group. And when we joined forces with Alibaba, when the Alibaba team came aboard to take over the company, we had the opportunity to learn about what we think is the future of e-commerce. And that is a future whereby the conjunction of community, content, and e-commerce is really strong. We then came back to Europe and realized that the state of development of e-commerce in Europe, especially when it comes to beauty, is, well, I would say it's probably 5 to 10 years behind. And so we wanted to take the opportunity to build a platform where this would be very easy, not just for users, but also for content creators and brands. Fast forward, we've raised our seed round. We have great investors backing us, Lakestar and Draper Esprit. And we have now a community of 150,000 users in the UK only, with plans for expansion already this year. And we decided to start building the community from the content perspective. So initially, Agora was just a place where users could share videos related to beauty. And we're now, we recently added the e-commerce bit. For now, we're just selling beauty boxes, which we call the Agora Edits. And next week, we're going to launch our live streaming technology. And in the course of the year, around in the summer, we're going to expand into a marketplace. So eventually, from being a content-only app, we are expanding into a full-blown shopping mall that has a very strong community and content element.
So your app is mostly based on user-generated content. How do you select and filter such content? Do you also work with brands directly? And if so, under which model? What do you offer to brands?
Yes, so the users have the right to upload any content. There's only two requirements. One, that the content has to be connected to a beauty product that has to be tagged. So we filter any content that is uploaded that is not beauty related. And naturally, that there's some filters in terms of, we don't allow bullyism, we don't allow naturally, wrong language and anything that is not appropriate. But we allow positive reviews, negative reviews, anything, whatever the users feel like sharing. And there is also a gamification piece that gives us a small incentive to the users to continuously upload content. In terms of the partnership with brands, we already partner with about 150 brands. This includes indie brands, but also includes the likes of Rosier that partnered up with us last month, some brands in the Estée Lauder portfolio, and we are in touch and in talks with pretty much any or most of the big groups out there. Initially, the only way a brand could work with us was through the edits. So by contributing to having one of the products in the beauty box. But now we're expanding, and as of next week, as I said, we're going to launch live streaming. So we already booked, we're already booking events for May, June, and July with leading brands to be part of our live streaming program. And obviously, as I mentioned, we're also having plan to launch a big shopping mall in the form of a marketplace. And so we already have 50 brands that have committed, made a soft commitment to join our marketplace in the course of the year.
So Riccardo, the world of tech is like a cemetery of apps which never took off. You mentioned 150,000 users in a year. What is your secret? How did you succeed in growing so fast with limited investments?
So first of all, 150,000 users for us is just a testing bed. We aim to get 3x this number by the end of the year. And but more than 50% of our users join the app through organic channels. So we have a referral program where you can tell your friend to join the app. There's a very strong element related to word of mouth. And of course, a big part of the user acquisition was also driven by our ambassador program. We have 300 content creators that we selected, and these are typically small-time influencers, people with between 10,000 and 100,000 followers on TikTok or Instagram. And this portfolio of 300 ambassadors have contributed greatly to bring users to the app. And the way we operate with them is that we give them the opportunity to make money by selling products. So for example, now with the launch of live streaming, many of them will have the opportunity to make a commission on whatever is sold during their live streaming events. So this was a big chunk of the way we gained some traction. We also have very healthy metrics in terms of retention. In terms of marketing, obviously social media is very important for us, and we are present both on Instagram and TikTok.
Thank you, Riccardo. Let's move on to Gabriela. Gabriela, together with your business partner Nuria, you have launched a very refined concept, which is at the intersection of beauty, nature, creativity. Can you tell us more about the inspiration for the Rowse brand?
Yes, hi everyone. So I'm the co-founder of Rowse, a plant-based beauty brand that aims to create a personalized beauty routine from raw ingredients, so plant oils, floral waters, clays. So just to give you a very simple example to understand, we've deconstructed the traditional face cream. It's actually made of water and oil. So we're going to sell our clients that floral water and that plant oil, a specific one to their skin needs. But we felt that it was the purest and most honest way to give you what nature has to offer. And Joel mentioned a very important word in our philosophy, which is creativity. I think that everything, and to answer your question, inspiration has come from nature, of course, and from everything artistic and creative that surrounds us. So we've been growing this brand organically for the past 2.5 years. I was working before for a Paris-based VC, investing in consumer startups. And when I met Nuria, my co-founder, we just saw a space for this kind of very minimal and based on aesthetics and universe that just wants you to try things and to immerse yourself into something new and authentic and different. And the way we've been growing this brand has been to collaborate with other creatives, so people who are painters, photographers, ceramists, so people more in the arts world who have been helping us creating content and giving their perspective on nature, on our products, and who also have some influence because all of them have not a super high, but a high following on Instagram, which is today our main channel. And that has helped us grow this brand organically. We only started doing paid ads like 3 months ago. So just to give you some numbers, we've reached 40K followers on Instagram. We have an engagement rate of close to 10% still. And that was the challenge, was to get there without spending a dime in marketing, and for having it seen at my previous job. And Riccardo, you work for Lazada, I work for Rocket Internet as well a while ago. So we had a huge marketing budget to go into. It was wild, and I saw how fast it can go, and we just didn't want to build it that way, because we call ourselves a sustainable brand, and sustainability to us, it also means reaching to break even and just not depend on Facebook and Google, though it helps a lot and you have to go through that. But we just wanted to make sure we were building a community of advocates and hardcore fans from the beginning.
So you mentioned these collabs. Can you give us a more concrete example of an artist? What does he bring? A recipe, a visual, a story? What is it?
Well, I have many examples. It's actually it's insane. The quantity of content. One of your questions for Charles was how you find the right balance. I think we definitely have way too much content. We actually integrated a content studio run by my co-founder Maria in Barcelona, and the way we see things. So we have the capacity to create content within the company, but we also have the capacity to collaborate with other content creators. So one example is this very famous cheesemaker in Madrid, Clara Diaz, who just made a ricotta recipe for us using one of our matcha powders, so inspired by one of our ingredients. That's one example, and that's one piece of content that we can create. We just closed a collab with the ceramist in Lanzarote in Spain, who with the help of our co-founder, just created from scratch. I don't have anything to show you here, but a collection of ceramics that can be used to make our beauty recipes or just to have at home. We just, a couple of weeks ago, we also had a collab with Kimbra Audrey, who's an American photographer based in Paris, who just reinterpreted her vision of raw beauty with self-portraits, and it's just beautiful content. And every week we have new content coming. So sometimes we're just like, oh my God, we need to stop, and maybe, for 3 days in a row we could be talking about the same thing. And I think that's the appealing of our brand, and that's going to be one of our stronger assets as we grow and how we become a different brand compared to all the other indie brands out there, is that we have this this artsy flavor that just makes things just a little bit different, I think, or at least we hope so.
So your brand has been growing in a very organic way so far with limited spend. Was it deliberate? How will you combine this sense of exclusivity and confidentiality with greater commercial exposure in the future? And will you stay DTC forever?
So those are very, very good questions, and we're constantly challenging ourselves, just see if we should continue doing the way we've been doing it. Without going into details of our marketing plan, we feel that the right mix for us has been to, we focused on Spain first, because that's where we physically are, even though the company is French and we have a foot in Paris as well. But so things took off here in Spain. And how we've done it is that we play with the cool kids first. We don't want to go mainstream right away, because we feel that to be a very unique and authentic brand for the first year and a half, you need to be a sort of secret brand. Like only cool people will talk about, only they get to try it, and then then it takes off slowly. So we start with them. We have collaborations with content creators, but very curated people. We don't want any mainstream profiles, and that has been our force, our strength, I think, just to being able to select the right people for us. Then we start with media. We've been having features every week, a few articles per week here in Spain, and then we can start running events. Well, right now we're kind of limited, but one of the things that have worked really well is just to connect people around a table and just get them to create a DIY face mask or press flowers with us, anything that's related to nature, because it's who we are and what inspires us the most. And then we can do a pop-up. We've done a couple of very private events, one in London at Modern Society. We are retaking those slowly for later this year if things get better with the pandemic. But so it's like growing slowly the hype, and then once you've reached that level and the sales expected for the country, then you can go a little bit more mainstream. So for example, here in Spain, there's a new multi-channel store opening called Wow. The name. So it's kind of a new mall, very experiential. So it's opening in Madrid, and we're thinking of maybe having a corner there. We're in discussions now. Team.
Okay.
So just to give you an example, and that's one country, right?
Okay.
And the idea would be to reproduce that. Now we're working slowly into growing our way into France, the UK, Germany, Italy, which are key markets in Europe, and then the US, where 10% of our clients are today. And I think the beauty of growing a brand organically is that it takes you where you have to go. We're not thinking of the US right away, but we see that a lot of our customers are in New York and California, so we should be there next year. So
very clear.
Another way of approaching
very
things.
clear. Thank you, Gabriela. This conversation could go on for a long time, but I think Unag, we are going to select questions from the audience to finish this panel. So I hand over to you.
We don't have any at the moment, but I have a question for Riccardo, actually, because you've talked about, you've built this community, obviously, and now you're going into the commerce aspect of that. There are other big social media platforms that are looking at commerce. Obviously, Facebook is doing it with Facebook and with Instagram. TikTok is looking at commerce. They're all getting into it. How are you going to differentiate your marketplace, which has started as a community content focused platform, from those other big tech companies that are kind of doing the same thing?
So I think when you look at the internet, it is interesting because the best way to understand online is to look at offline. And I will start talking about Amazon, but then I will respond on TikTok and Instagram. If we were walking on High Street in the 60s, we would look at the retail offer, and we would probably see like department stores, probably the first supermarket chains. I think Walmart was launched around those days. And you would tell, or not you, but naturally one could argue, what else? This is done. Like this has been, you brought retail at scale. You have economy of scale, economy of scope. That's it. The reality is that then a lot of vertical players showed up. The model got refined, and growth was immense after then. The same way I look at the internet these days. So when you look at the e-commerce, people are like, well, there is Amazon. What else do you need? And this is, in my view, only true for one use case of e-commerce, which is a certain, the repurchase or the consumable purchase. But when it comes to categories like beauty, then things are very different. The same answer goes to when I look at the media or marketing channels. I think Instagram and TikTok are replacing airtime on TV. So the younger generation are not consuming TV as much as they are consuming time on their phone. But I struggle to believe that will ever become a main way for them to shop, because shopping is very different from entertainment and from, it's a very different use case. And then there's many reasons. I know in China, this was partially different, but China is a totalitarian country where people are used to have one source. But I think especially in the West, people, I don't think will be very comfortable in sharing with the same ecosystem where they have their friends' details and their personal life and where they consume entertainment videos. I don't think they will be comfortable also to their shopping there. And I also think that the ethos of the platform doesn't really solve a lot of the problems on the supply side. So brands that want to sell at the moment on Instagram has launched their e-commerce already 2 or 3 years ago. It doesn't really solve the problem for brands because there's a lot of integration in the value chain that require specific investment in infrastructure. So all in all, it is a very exciting space. Instagram and TikTok will probably take 10% of the market, but the 90% is for the take. And hopefully us or a company like us will emerge.
Okay, and you think that consumers, because you've said that, you know, obviously your experience in Asia and China being ahead of the e-commerce market in the West there, but it's a different consumer as well there, which you've pointed out. Are they ready for, you're launching live streaming? Are they ready for live streaming? Will they take to the live streaming the way Chinese consumers have done?
Look, I think live streaming is an interesting media, and the value of live streaming is exactly the same as the value of any other mechanic. That is a great hook for users, but in time generates fatigue. So I don't believe in live streaming for the sake of live streaming, because that will only appeal to a very niche segment of the market. I believe live streaming is an amazing way to generate that interest, but that needs to be complemented with a strong community and with a great assortment. Therefore, the marketplace bit that we're going to add later on. I think live streaming in its own right will be a mechanic to sell, but again, I think a lot of people will get it wrong by thinking that live streaming in its own right delivers sales. Whereas I think live streaming is one of the mechanics that needs to be built on top of a community.
Okay, we have a few questions from the audience, maybe one for you, Charles, and also for Gabriela then after that. How do you compensate co-creators and collabs?
How do we compensate co-creators and what, sorry?
And your collaboration partners?
Collabs, so maybe you can discuss Victoria Beckham or...
Yes, so sorry, I'm sorry to be slow. The beginning of the question is, how do we compensate, or how do we...
How do you compensate them? I
mean,
right, are you...
Right, okay, yeah. Yes, I mean, it depends. For us, that's, again, one advantage to be an independent company. The decision process is, you know, we are flexible and it's fast. And our collaboration with Victoria Beckham was very fast and organic. She was in love with our products, and she was thinking about launching makeup and skincare, but felt that she didn't have the legitimacy to really do skincare. And so we were on top of her list for collaboration. So we had a very open and direct conversation where at the time we were just starting our journey. So the brand awareness was low. So she was bringing brand awareness. She also had formulation capabilities because she hired a team who was heading again the makeup sector at Estée Lauder Group. And therefore the formula was us bringing our TFC8, which is our proprietary ingredient, with them formulating. So to cut a long story short, that was a pretty equilibrated partnership. And therefore we decided to create a JV 50-50. And so that was our model. If we would do another collaboration where we would bring more of the overall value of the collaboration, then I guess we would take majority and the same. So for us, I think 50% is probably the minimum to make collaboration, but you know, we could envisage collaboration where we are majority stakeholder. But that's flexible, really. That's a case by case thought process.
Okay, Gabriela, would you like to comment on that? On how you compensate your collabs?
Yes, so for us, in terms of content creators, we do not pay them. That's one of our policies, but we do give them visibility, and because they're artists and, you know, they want that visibility as well. So it's win-win for the brand and for them. So they create the content and we just put it out there in our social media networks. In terms of collabs, we've done a couple ones, really pretty ones, with the Frankie Shop, which is the concept store in New York and Paris, and Rowse, which is a Belgian online store with physical shops as well in Paris. And the way we've done it so far, but we're rethinking the whole thing, is that we've sold them products for a commission. And it was just easier. And then in terms of communication, we just align our plans, and, you know, we send newsletters and the whole thing to both communities, theirs and ours. But the easiest way for now, and because it's been, you know, like not, it was like a last minute thing. So we sold them the products, but we are thinking, and I'm saying this out loud, if there are any beautiful retailers out there listening to us, but we have the capacity now to create personalized products for retailers, and that's something that we're talking to of beautiful brands, and that's something that would like to offer, but it's just the ideation process for now.
Okay. We have another question, maybe Gabriela, we'll stay with you for that, and Charles, if you want to give your input on it as well. A lot of disruptor indie brands actually look pretty similar in terms of their packaging, their graphics, their backstory. How do you maintain a point of difference? And it's kind of linked to another question that we have also, which is how do you, what's the difference between these new indie brands coming up and a lot of the big established brands as well? How do you distinguish yourselves, I guess? Gabriela, if you want to start.
Yeah, well, in our case, I think it's the, in terms of the product strategy, just a way of unbundling beauty routines and using raw ingredients. That has been something that's not new because we didn't invent it. It has existed forever, but it has been a differentiator for us, just to explain how to use our products. And then in terms of branding, the aesthetics, and if you invite you to take a look at our Instagram, if you can, but I think that the universe that we're trying to build is, it takes you out there in the nature, and it's just the whole experience, the packaging, the cards that you receive when you have your products, the whole thing has been thought in a way, that you just want to have that on your bathroom shelf. But then of course any brand is going to say the same. So I think it's very, very personal, and there's the vision, there's how you execute it. And I think just some brands are better at executing than others. And I'm not saying it's us, but no, there's so much you can do.
Okay, Charles, do you have an opinion on that in terms of, a lot of these new up and coming brands looking very similar? How do you distinguish your brand?
Yes, I mean, in some ways we have done several things that are different. So we are a scientific brand again, and Augustinus Bader is a professor. At the time, a lot of the doctors were Dr. something, and we decided not to have neither doctor or professor in front of his name. A lot of the scientific brand were white, and we decided to be blue and copper, which was helpful at the beginning because as the name was, people could not understand it. I remember that the people at Barney's, when Barney's was still alive, told us that a lot of their customers at the beginning of our adventure, when they were entering the shop, were asking for the blue bottle. So the fact that we had a visual difference was helpful. Then in terms of, our point of view and existence compared to the conglomerates or what is out there, we were privileged that, again, Augustinus, is the only scientific mind today in the world that found the signals to trigger your dormant stem cells. So his science is disruptive and the patents are unique, and therefore that gave us, again, he created a wound gel in 2008, and our skincare brand was created to finance his research and clinical trial for children burns and diabetic wounds. So the mission of our brand and the very strong scientific background, and the fact that by calling the brand his name, we were very transparent and giving the opportunity to the consumer to actually check his research and having a real story that can be Google proofed. That was our way to have an identity, because again, I think the consumer today is looking for more and more transparency, and we've been, heading very strongly to that direction.
Okay. Another question, maybe Riccardo, if we could go to you for this one. Could you please develop on how you nourish your community? How do the brands nourish their community on your platform?
So how we nourish it, or how the brands nourish it?
Well, I think maybe the two perspectives would be interesting.
Mm-hmm. So we don't really, so I think in our case, it's more the community that shape itself. As I said, a lot of more than the majority of the traffic and the new users come from the community in the form of referrals, word of mouth, our ambassador talking about us. So the community takes direction that we don't really want to control. We're not a church. we're not a brand. We are a platform. What is interesting, for example, is that we have more than 100,000 pieces of content generated on the app, and the distribution across brands is very different from what we would have imagined. So if you take a Nielsen report and you look at what are the most popular brands on our app, you will find some differences. So there's a lot of up and coming brands that are not very visible in the reports, but are really strong in terms of content generated and excitement on the app. So all we do is to make sure that the app stays true to its core values. That is a safe space where people can express themselves. It's a space where people is not only safe, but is real, it's true. So people are expected to speak their mind, and it's also fun. So there is a gamification element, is a fun element. When it comes to the brands, at the moment, the brands don't have a lot of levers to engage with the community because everything is mediated by us, but we are opening up channels, and the live streaming launch that happens next week is the first way that brands can directly engage with users. So we already have a bunch of partnering brands that will use their own content creators or the makeup artists, or some brands will use their own dermatologists to communicate directly to the community. And it's very important for us that that communication happens in the form of live streaming, so it stays separate from the user-generated content that is intended to be organic. And of course, with the marketplace, we will allow that even more with brands having a direct presence. So that will kind of happen as the platform evolves.
Okay. Gabriela, we'll maybe go back to you. We have a few questions on sustainability. How do you prioritize sustainability, and how much of your actions to be sustainable do you share with your community, and what's your opinion on greenwashing there?
Oh, that's a lot of questions. Well, I think the problem with sustainability is that you don't have an official definition, so it just leaves room for every brand to interpret it their own way, and that's hence the greenwashing. In our own experience, and what I can share is that the way we've done it, well, first of all, as I mentioned earlier, in terms of economics, we decided that in order to become sustainable, we didn't want to get into that race of fundraising every 12 to 18 months and then get crazy valuations that are usually not very close to reality, even though it's always it's very exciting. It's a very exciting exercise, but for us was to be financially independent and have healthy unit economics. So that's, that can be one way of seeing sustainability, but that's not what interests the clients. In terms of what we tell our clients, well, first of all, we've chose to work with glass instead of plastic. We still have some plastic, but it's less than 10%, and we're trying to get rid of that. All our card boxes are made with recycled paper. They are recyclable as well. We are only working with local producers. All our raw ingredients are organic, certified here in Spain and in Europe. So I think it's little things. And again, sustainability is just, it's a very long road for a lot of brands. And the way we see it is, when you're an indie brand and you're starting, just do it the best way you can, and other people will follow, and hopefully the big ones will follow as well, and it will just, made other materials more accessible. When you see that you can replace plastic with hemp fibers or mushrooms, and it's incredibly interesting, but it's as well incredibly expensive, and that's something that's just not out there yet for indie brands. That's my humble opinion.
Okay. All right. I think that's it for questions from the audience. Joelle, I don't know if you want to say a few words just to close there about a conclusion in terms of what we've talked about, the communities, the D2C strategies.
Look, it's back to one of my initial points, finding this balance between content, commerce, and community is really the challenge. You've heard Riccardo moving from content to commerce through community. Clearly, Charles has been very much a commerce brand, but based on a lot of research and content, and the community is built because it's a cult brand, and Gabriela is at the crossroad of the three and trying to find the right balance. But for me, it's fascinating to see the three C's, content, commerce, community, working together to build effective brands, effective business, and long-standing stories.
Okay, that's a good sum up, I think, of the discussion. I want to thank you, Joelle, Riccardo, Charles, and Gabriela for taking part in this discussion. It's been very interesting. And we will be back at 5 p.m. CET for a panel on how beauty brands can use short video platform TikTok. Thank you and see you later.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.